All right, so this is going to be a quick news bulletin. So 1090 Jake has recently made a video about this Florida-based fishing YouTuber by the name of HoodFishing and called him out for being a snitch. Now, this backfired horribly for 1090 Jake because the guy he's exposing for snitching is not a gang member. He's a YouTube fisherman who is successfully making a life for himself away from the streets and is a tremendous positive influence for young people in Florida. And so this idiotic little stunt that Jake tried to pull, of course, for views and profit, exploded back into his face as the overwhelming majority of, almost 100% of the comments under this video are calling out 1090 Jake for going after him, for going after hood fishing. Just look at these comments. I literally haven't found one comment that supports 1090 Jake's decision to cover this. Calling a fishing YouTuber a snitch for getting shot and explaining what happened is moronic and idiotically stupid. And that's what I want to cover. So I want to show you what Jake had to say. So let me just explain really quick what happened. So the guy got shot. I guess his name's Ra. He got shot. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He got grazed by bullets, and then he explained what happened. And this was years ago. This is like 10 years ago. So the fact that Jake is coming out with this now just shows that this is just a money grab, and what a mistake it was, because he's getting absolutely destroyed in his comments. But I want to show you, listen to what 1090 Jake says about this guy.
If you follow any Florida blogs, you've likely seen HoodFishing Entertainment, as he recently went viral after catching a whole ass shark and doing the most Florida thing possible, putting a gold chain around its neck. Rod took his shirt off saying he was shot in the back while running, showing he'd been grazed by a bullet. Rod said his friend was possibly hurt but couldn't provide the address to where the shooting occurred. Rod would say he didn't have problems with anyone, but people he knew had problems with them and vice versa. Now, did Rod snitch? At this point, that question doesn't even need an answer. But what many will say is, why does it matter? It matters because no matter how much you change your life for the better, whether you put the guns down to pick up a fishing rod or you put the drugs down to pick up a football, the people in life that don't see the greater things in life will always be looking for someone else to blame.
Wow. So I've got a huge problem with what's going on here. So 1090 Steak is titling this video "Exposed for Snitching," and then he says, now people would ask, is this snitching? Well, at this point, that question doesn't even need an answer, because even if you change your life for the better and don't participate in the street life, people are gonna find a way to tear you down and call you a snitch, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. So I want people to pay close attention to what he's saying here. He says that, like, it doesn't matter if you were once from the streets and once abided by the code of the street, and then you cleaned up your life and left the streets and decided to become a civilian. It doesn't matter. You're always going to, if you cooperate with the police at that point, you're always going to be tied back to your former life. Now, so he says that this guy's past is the reason why he's being called a snitch. First of all, no one's calling him a snitch except for 1090 Jake. I want to point that out. But listen to what he says in the same fucking video. He says that this guy was never a part of the streets and it never applied to him. Listen to this.
The only thing he needs to do is get far away from Fort Myers. He's found his own lane, and I guarantee it will be unaffected by his past, since he really didn't change his life around. He never lived that life to begin with, and always had a dream to make it out the hood.
Okay, so he never lived that life. He never even needed to change his life because he was never in anything. But for some reason, you're making a video about him, about being a snitch? That doesn't make sense. That's actually crazy and stupid. You see what I mean? Like in one part of the video, he says, it doesn't matter if you change your life or not, you're always going to be a snitch. And then a couple minutes later, he says, he was never in that life at all. That's the craziest part. I mean, how stupid and bloated could someone possibly be? And so 1090 Jake's paying for it, guys. He's paying for it big in the comments. People are turning on him. All the comments are negative. He's getting overwhelmingly torched. And for good reason. This guy hood fishing is an inspiration. We love hood fishing. And so what 1090 Steak has done is he's made this video, this expose of this non-snitchery. And then at the in the video, at the very end of the video, he says, oh, but he's not a snitch because he was never in that life.
He never lived that life to begin with.
So what he's doing is he's excusing himself from responsibility for making this video should people not take kindly to it. which is exactly what happened. So now 1090 Jake can fall back and say, oh, I never called him a snitch. I just made the video and exposed the paperwork so that you could make the decision if he's a snitch. And this is what he did with the BG video. 1090 Cakes made a video about BG being a snitch even though he had a fall guy. And then when he got torched for it by the fans, he fell back and said that he was the one that was saying that BG wasn't a snitch. You can't make this up. Listen to what he said on Vlad TV.
As everybody is saying to me, how did he snitch and he got a fall guy? You dumb motherfucker, I'm the one that told you he was the fall guy. Nobody mentioned the fall guy until I put that in the air. How you saying he snitched if I ain't never said it?
He absolutely said it. He, in fact, said that because BG testified in court, there's no coming back from that. He literally said this. He said that let me just play the clip.
If they agreed dude was gonna be the fall guy and BG made a statement at the scene, it's like you can almost go for that because dude is being the fall guy. But BG testifying in court, how many rappers do we know that have testified in court and it hasn't come with a label of being a snitch or a rat?
How you saying he snitched if I ain't never said it?
So this was a huge failure for Jacob Cherry. He made this BG video and it didn't go over well, and now he had to go on Vlad and explain that he never thought that he was a snitch. Everyone else, all his fans are so stupid to think that they weren't paying attention, is what he said. So everyone's stupid but him. And so this is what he's doing with this hood fishing video. He's putting language in the end of the video that he can fall back on if he gets called out for making the video. He can say, I told you in the video that he was not a snitch. I said that he never was in that life, the life that I lived. He never was like that. I only made the video so that I don't even know what he's going to go with. That's like really stupid. But mark my words, that's what he's going to do. He's going to say, we're not paying attention. He never called him a snitch. He just made a whole video and labeled the video exposed for snitching and everything else. He's a clever little Bostonian son of a bitch. Guys, this is the same guy that called out Rick Ross for being a CO and saying that, oh, he's a CO. That means he's the police and everything. But if you remember his No Jumper interview, he said this about COs in Florida.
They called me in the booth. They trying to G-chat me. One of the COs was talking about he a blood.
Really?
The COs, bro, like the COs gangbang type shit. So it's like, if you meet one that, you might start getting hooked up, and we did start getting hooked up.
So 1090 Jake says that there's COs that are actual valid gang members. How could that possibly be if he called Rick Ross out for being a CO? So by Jake's own words, Rick Ross could be a total vicious and most ruthless gangster and also be a CO. So there's a contradiction there. And what's even more interesting is 1090 Jake openly snitched on COs for their drug smuggling and everything else on the news and provided the news with his government name, Jacob Cherry, and then described how the COs are doing it. So he's snitching on potential gang members. What? So that's snitching.
Money and a $30 phone on the street turns into a $1,200 phone inside a prison. A lot of people are gonna do it.
The state says in 1 year.
So at this point, 1090 Jake is a known snitch rat, okay? And I want you guys to understand, and 1090 Jake is not a blood. He's not a blood from Florida. He started cosplaying as a blood when he went to prison. He's not from a hood. He has no hood. And he moved to Florida when he was 13 years old. And he thinks that he's the most respected blood from the streets of Tampa. It's just flat out not true.
So you left the Boston area at what age?
I moved down to Florida when I was 13.
Okay.
Yeah. So one thing about me, I don't claim a specific neighborhood because I've always moved. I've always switched schools. So at one point, I went to one school. There was one black kid in the whole school.
This is the great white blood from Tampa that's saying this. And another thing, he says that he was good friends in there with a Nazi. Listen to this.
One of the big names on that compound was named Country. He was an American Nazi, swastikas all over his head and everything. He called me nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's okay. So he was really hitting it off with the whites in there. He loved the COs. He was friends with the COs. He was friends with the white swastika supremacists.
There's a CO that I still talk to this day who will come up to my cell.
He still talks to him to this day. This is insane. So this is a blood, claims he's a blood from Florida, and he remains friends with the cops. And he had this, the Nazis were calling him nephew. All right, so that's pretty cool. And this is who people get their information from. So I need people to know that this guy's a fraud and he makes up lies and he tells other people's stories and presents them as his own. And he's just really sort of a weird guy. He's a weird Floridian blood from Boston.
Not to sound no type of way, but I'm about the biggest known white blood that there is. It's not common like that. When it came down to doing things, I did things.
Right.
And the things that I did, the word traveled on it.
Definitely.
So it kind of built its own reputation.
Yeah, that's one thing I got from watching.
So 1090 Steak is going out sad. The fans are turning on him. He looks like a monster clown. It's only a matter of time before he makes a statement saying that he never even implied that Hood Fishing was a snitch. By the way, I want everyone to go check out Hood Fishing. He slays lunkers. He's slaying peacock bass in Florida. And it's a dope-ass channel. I want everyone to go and show him some support and watch his stuff. It's actually really cool. He shows us the baits. He shows us the technique in language that we can understand, and we should appreciate that. And that's going to do it for now. I'm on Jake's case. I'm going to be torching him rather routinely pretty soon. So if you want to see that, make sure you're subscribed and tuned in, and I'll see you guys on the next one.